I've got petitions for you to sign so you can get on the August primary ballot, but I'd really like him to speak about the constitutional role of the county sheriff, if he will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry, I got to be 17 places at once, and I'm against cloning, so you had to wait for the real deal. So it's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm honored to be amongst you. I've been asked a number of times on the radio about Tea Party. I actually did an interview. It will be on this Sunday. Chuck Stokes, Channel 7, he's asked me about the tea baggers. And I said, men and women that, are busy in their own lives, that got up off their couch to give back, to change the direction of this country, to go in the direction that this country was founded on, and the principles it was built on, those people. So, thank you for being a tea bagger. It kind of reminds me when I was first a cop, it was years and years ago, it was 1970. And back in that time, there were a lot of people who used to call us pigs. And that tells you how long ago it was. So we actually had belt buckles that said pigs on it. Pride, integrity, guts. And so, take the tea bagger and put it back in their face, I say. So anyways, the constitutional role of the sheriff is a critical one on many levels, and it's not that I don't love the job I'm doing. I want to make that real clear. I love what I'm doing. The job I'm seeking will stink because there's such a mess. I liken it to there's a very dirty barn that needs to be shoveled out, and that's the job I'm seeking. The job I love is being sheriff. The constitutional role of the sheriff goes back to the founding of this country, and it is the highest and only chief law enforcement official that's directly accountable to you and only to you. And it was built that way intentionally by the founders, both in the national and the state constitution. In fact, there's little known provisions that go way back that in my county no one can arrest me because the people didn't want the sheriff to be impeded from doing his or her job of protecting the people. They didn't want other powers to be able to intervene. And so it really is the constitutional role of the sheriff. How many know of Sheriff Mack? Have I heard of Sheriff Mack? Oh, yeah. Well, go Google Sheriff Mack. Anyways, we're actually trying to. I've talked to him a few times. We're gonna do a rally with him at some point for me on my campaign. But he is one of the early proponents on the national level, if you will, of the power and the duties of the sheriff to uphold and stand for the Constitution, regardless of who's threatening it. He was one of the original sheriffs to. I don't want to repeat too much of what you said.
I didn't say too much about him.
He was one of the early sheriffs that actually sued the federal government over the mandates in the Brady Bill that were requiring him to do what he thought was unconstitutional as it related to the Second Amendment. And it took years, but ultimately that was the lawsuit that brought down the Brady Bill, was the sheriff. And the court, the United States Supreme Court said, you're right, the sheriff is a constitutional officer and is not subject to the control of anyone, including the President of the United States who signed this bill.
Yeah.
So I am very jealously guarding the office, not because I happen to be your sheriff, but I happen to respect the office in which you've placed me in. And I'm a temporary occupant, and the next person needs to have those same powers and commitment to you and to the Constitution. I'm just a temporary steward of it. So one of the first things I did when I became the sheriff is I changed it from the sheriff's department. You may have remembered the patches said department, the cars said department. Now everything says sheriff's office. Because it's not a department. I like Brooks Patterson, we're friends. I don't work for Brooks. But not a department of the county, I work for you. It's the sheriff's office, the office of the sheriff. It's independent.
On a current basis, what can you do or can you protect us against the government coming in, forcing us to buy a health care policy? What if they want to take us to jail?
Well, and there's a number of things that have happened on that front. For example, I was one of the first groups that went not only to 9/11 to Ground Zero, but to Ground Zero in the Katrina area. And some folks were actually told and were confiscating firearms, which is unconstitutional. And I very clearly said we weren't going to be part of that in the area we were policing. And if somebody came to our county and attempted to take away your firearms in a time of an emergency, I would stop them. Period. If anybody stepped on what to me is a constitutional right and threatened to do something, we would stand in the way of that.
Did you want to talk about your running for governor a little bit here?
Oh, yeah, I'm running for governor. That's funny if you mentioned it. Well, thank you. I obviously am running for governor. And again, it's not because I don't love being sheriff. I do. We've got over 1,200 men and women that do great things every day, and I'm honored to be with them. And I've got a lot of friends that wear a uniform and have worn a uniform. And for me, it's a brotherhood. I love it. But as I looked at what was happening, you know, I was born and raised in Michigan, and I live 5-6 miles from here, and have been within 10 miles of here since I was 2. And for the first time, I'm afraid my kids are going to leave this state to find their future. We lose somebody in this state every 12 minutes. And so as I looked at that situation, we have 3 kids, my wife and I. And I, for the first time, felt there is a probable risk that they're going to leave, not by choice, but by requirement to find a future, because they can't find a job here. That's the state of affairs in this state. And as much as the governor and other folks in Lansing would like to blame that on the national or international economic turmoil, the reality is other states have lost more jobs than Michigan, but they replaced them at a faster rate. What we've done is we've lost them, and then we've stepped on the remaining ones with higher taxes. And we keep sending them across the border.